When I was 9, my granddad gifted me something that seemed ordinary, a simple brown box with my name scrawled across the top. Yet, my young self was fascinated by it, and now I wish he had never given it to me. Now, Jonathan, before I give this to you, I need you to promise me something, my granddad said, holding the box just out of my reach. I crossed my arms, intrigued. His demeanor shifted from friendly to serious in an instant, and that stern look terrified me. Promise me you won't open this until your 18th birthday. My heart sank. Why would he dangle a gift in front of me if I couldn't open it for another 9 years? But why? I asked, tears welling in my eyes. Listen, kid, I'm not doing so well, and I don't know how much longer I have. I wanted to make sure I give this to you before that day comes. This gift is special. I need you to be more mature when you open it, so you'll use it wisely, he said, placing a gentle hand on my shoulder. But I don't want you to die, Granddad. I love you. I could no longer hold back the sobs, tears streaming down my cheeks. Hey, no need to cry. We still have plenty of time together, he reassured me, smiling that warm, comforting smile that always melted my worries away. I know what will cheer you up, ice cream. And just like that, my fears were washed away over a big bowl of treats. That day remained etched in my mind, as, contrary to Granddad's reassurances, we didn't have much time left. He passed away 2 days later, complications from a triple bypass surgery he had 3 months prior. A clot in one of his arteries took him from us, and he lost his life in the back of an ambulance, just half a mile from the hospital. I was crushed. Granddad had been my rock, my best friend, my confidant, my guiding light. Losing him left me completely adrift. That month, I cried more than I ever had in my 9 years of life. His death was my first experience with loss, and it made finding closure all the more difficult. The funeral was somber, but it was heartwarming to see so many people come to pay their respects. I was grateful to know how much he was loved. Afterward, I found myself alone in my room, glancing at the brown box tucked away in the corner of my closet. Despite my temptation to open it, I held firm to my promise. As the years passed, the box faded from my mind. It moved to the back of my closet, becoming an afterthought as my interests shifted to girls, video games, and my growing circle of friends. Before I knew it, my 18th birthday had arrived. After celebrating with family and friends, I collapsed onto my bed, exhausted. Suddenly, I heard a soft thud from my closet. My heart raced. It was the box. I rushed to the closet and flung open the door. There it was, lying face down among piles of dirty clothes. I grabbed it, brushing off the thick layer of dust that had settled on its surface. My name greeted me in faded black letters. Without hesitation, I tore open the wrapping like a kid on Christmas morning. 9 long years had led to this moment. As I opened the box, my jaw dropped. Inside lay the most beautiful watch I had ever seen, a stunning gold band with an intricately designed face that gleamed at me. The hands ticked steadily around ornate numbers. I finally understood. Granddad wanted me to wait until I was older to appreciate this gift properly. As I fastened the shiny gold band around my wrist, a piece of paper slipped to the floor. I set the watch down, picked up the note, and began to read. Dear Jonathan, happy 18th birthday. I wish I could be there to celebrate this milestone with you. But if I'm not, know that I love you with all my heart. Even if I'm not there in person, I'll always be with you in spirit. Tears streamed down my cheeks as a flood of memories washed over me, each one more vivid than the last. I almost set the paper aside and put the watch away for the night, but I forced myself to keep reading. I am entrusting you with my most valuable possession. It may look like a simple wristwatch, but its worth is beyond measure. Below, I've included a list of instructions and rules for using the watch. Please take care of its abilities. There is only one like it in existence. To control time, pull out the dial to stop it. Turn the dial forward or backward to reach your desired moment, then push it back in to continue. Use it sparingly, don't skip ahead or go back more than a week, as it could have dire consequences for the space-time continuum. Please don't use the watch for evil intentions. I know you're a good kid, but I have to say this. Don't use it for money, sexual favors, or expensive material goods. If you choose to use it, Take care not to damage it. As mentioned, this is a rare item. You really don't want to encounter the creature responsible for repairing it, as the cost is steep. I'm trusting you with this, Jonathan. Follow the guidelines, and you'll succeed. Neglecting them could lead to rather severe consequences. Handle its power wisely. Happy birthday again, grandson. Love, Granddad. Was this a joke? Perhaps my granddad had some kind of degenerative illness that I hadn't noticed. There was only one way to find out. I strapped the watch around my wrist and examined it from every angle, admiring its elegance. I held my breath as I reached for the dial, the moment of truth. I pulled the dial out and nothing happened. The watch's hands stopped ticking, but otherwise, there were no signs of anything strange. Maybe it was just an ordinary watch after all. I didn't even bother to push the dial back in. I walked downstairs, feeling a bit dejected. Even if the watch had no special powers, at least Mom would think it was cool. As I turned the corner to the stairs, I almost stumbled. I stopped suddenly, my eyes widening. My mother was frozen in place, hovering over a pot on the stove, the steam completely still above it. I continued to soak in my surroundings as the TV paused between scenes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Dad was settled in his favorite rocking chair, staring down at his phone with a cup of green tea raised almost to his lips. That moment snapped me out of my stupor as I pushed the dial back in, and everything resumed as if nothing had happened. Andy Samberg was shouting at some hilariously clueless street thug on the screen, Dad noisily sipped his tea, and Mom hummed a soft tune while steam curled up from the kettle. It worked. It really worked. I tried it again just to be sure, and everything froze like it had the first time. A grin spread across my face. I was going to have so much fun with this watch. The rest of the weekend unfolded as expected. I used the watch whenever it came in handy. I skipped Mom's 100th lecture of the week about why vaping is bad. I don't even vape, rewound my turns in our weekly Uno game to change the odds in my favor, and paused time to let out a fart in a crowded elevator. You get the idea. I was having the time of my life. When Monday rolled around, I was especially eager. I had been dealing with some really terrible bullies, and I was looking forward to teaching them a lesson. I breezed through my morning classes and headed straight to lunch. I wasn't hungry, at least not for food. I was hungry for revenge. Before long, the bullies waddled into the cafeteria and walked straight up to me. Carson and Dylan were on the heavier side and liked to use their weight to their advantage, especially against smaller kids like me. "Hey, kid. That sandwich looks pretty delicious. Hope you don't mind if I take a few bites," Carson said, shoving me aside while licking his lips. I smiled and reached for the watch. "I don't care at all," I replied, pulling out the dial and watching as Carson's filthy hand froze just before it could grab my turkey sandwich. The noisy cafeteria fell completely silent, with many kids frozen in their various activities, all eyes on us. I didn't hesitate. I shot up from my seat and started hitting Carson hard on the head. Dylan was next. I unleashed all the pent-up rage that had been building inside me throughout my senior year. I showed them no mercy after all the torment they had put me through. I wanted them to suffer. Once I finished pummeling them, I took Carson's arms and wrapped them around Dylan's waist, gave Carson a wedgie, then locked Dylan's hands around Carson's clothing. I pushed their faces together until their round lips touched. I couldn't help but congratulate myself. It was so satisfying to see them like that. When I pushed the dial back in, chaos resumed and laughter erupted in the cafeteria. "Hey, look at those two. Gross. EW, get a room. That's disgusting." The two of them quickly pulled away, their faces painted with shock, and the expression on their faces was priceless. My heart raced with excitement as their pain sank in, and tears rolled down Carson's cheeks. Dylan glared at me with one eye, the other covered by his hand, and leaned in to whisper, "I know you did this somehow. This isn't over." "Oh, I'm so scared. Are you and your boyfriend going to kiss me to death?" I taunted. Dylan raised a fist, but thought better of it, lowering his head in defeat. "We'll make you pay. You'll see." Both bullies flipped me off as they turned to leave, trudging out of the cafeteria with their swollen faces, while other kids laughed at them. I almost felt a twinge of sympathy for them until I remembered how awful they had been to me. The rest of my day went smoothly, thanks to the watch. I had even discovered the answers to the science test I hadn't studied for, and I was sure I would pass with flying colors. I was also planning to ask out one of the cutest cheerleaders in school. So, maybe we could catch a movie this Saturday? I started to say when I was suddenly slammed into a locker, my arms pinned to my sides, unable to move. Sorry, Jonathan, but I don't date losers like you, Johnny said, flipping her hair over her shoulder as she walked away. I turned my focus back to my attackers. What the hell? I had a chance with her before all this. Just then, a fist connected with my face and I saw stars. Shut up. You embarrassed us earlier. I'll kick your teeth in. Carson and Dylan shouted. My heart raced like a drill in my chest. I couldn't reach the watch unless a teacher happened to walk by. I was in deep trouble. Then the worst-case scenario played out. That's a nice watch you've got there. Maybe I'll take that as a down payment, Carson laughed, reaching for my wrist. No, leave the watch alone. I snarled, desperately trying to keep it out of his grasp. It was no use. I can see this watch means a lot to you. It'd be a real shame if something happened to it, Carson said, a wide, menacing grin spreading across his face. My eyes widened in dread. This couldn't be happening. Carson grabbed my wrist and started slamming the watch against a storage unit, smashing it over and over again. I flinched before each hit and after, my eyes squeezed shut. When it finally stopped, I slowly forced my eyes open, realizing time had come to a standstill. I yanked my wrist from Carson's grip and wriggled free from Dylan's hold, my heart sinking as I looked down at the watch. Shards of glass were scattered on the floor, and the hands had stopped moving. The hour hand was crushed and sticking out at an odd angle. I nearly fainted when I saw the side of the watch. The dial was completely gone. In a panic, I searched for it and eventually found it amid the debris on the ground. I tried to push it back in, but it was useless. I had no idea how long I'd been trapped here, maybe 7 days? It was impossible to measure time when it felt frozen like this. I had all the essentials I needed to survive, but I was terrified, not that time might never move again, but that it eventually would. I kept seeing the watch repairman Grandad mentioned in his letter. He started far away, but he's getting closer, no matter how far I run or where I hide. Just the sight of him sends waves of fear through me because this thing has no face. I have a sinking feeling I won't survive when he catches up to me. That's why I need to share my story. I've scheduled this post to go live tomorrow, hoping that if time does resume, my message will reach the world. If you're reading this, it's likely too late for me. Please, for the love of everything sacred, if this watch somehow ends up in your possession, don't use it. Toss it in a storage unit and forget it ever existed, because the consequences are dire.